Three. Body. Thinking. Best one yet, yeah? So for today's episode, I wanted to chat about the human race now has its first trillionaire. For the first time ever in the history of humanity, we have somebody that is valued at over $1 trillion. I'm gonna let that settle in for a second. $1 trillion for a single human on this planet. And I get there's gonna be some people that push back and say, well, that's their net worth. It's not like liquid cash. They can't go spend it today. But the irony is, majority of rich people, definitely trillionaires, definitely billionaires, but even people in the millions or tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars are smart enough to know how to trick the system to where they never even actually touch their wealth. All they do is take out loans against their wealth and then finance those into other purchases and then use that to build more wealth. So once you're rich, you have to be real dumb to not just stay rich, because you really don't have to touch your own money. You can just continue to take loans against yourself and to build your wealth that way. Very low risk money management, and you can just build and build. But what I want to actually talk about today is how humans are so bad at large numbers. And if you think about it, it makes total sense. I mean, we did come from, the plains of the African savanna back when our brains really did not have to manage large scale numbers. I mean, herds, troops, whatever you want to call us, depending on how far back you go, a population of apes and or humanoids, early like Neanderthals and Homo sapiens and our precursors really dealt with numbers less than 100 on a daily basis. In order for us to know our entire village, it was probably in the dozens, maybe hundreds. If we were going hunting, we would bring back food or berries or anything that we could find, and we were not counting into the thousands or millions whenever we did this. Even if we saw a herd of hundreds of buffalo, all we really needed to come back and report was that we saw a lot of buffalo that we could go hunt, or whatever it was, depending on what human population we're talking about at what point in time in history. So throughout human history, we've never had to manage into the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions or billions or trillions. So our brain was never equipped to deal with those numbers, because in order to survive on a daily basis, you basically need to know up to like 100, and there could be an argument to be made that you need to know up to about 1,000, and then you could survive just fine knowing between 100 and 1,000 and not ever having to count larger a day in your life for most of human history. But times have changed. We now live in a world where we operate in the trillions and quadrillions, and we're trying to push, larger prime numbers into the infinite landscape. So humans are pushing themselves and challenging and expanding, and that's globalization that's allowing us to do all of this. But what it means is that when we interact with other people, other systems, on a societal scale that is global, it means that we're working in the billions and trillions, and our brains are not equipped for that. So I want you to try this exercise really quick. If $1 is 1 second, like a second in time, and you have $1 million, how much time do you think you have? So I'll say that one more time. If you have $1 and that equals 1 second in time, and you have $1 million, aka you have 1 million seconds, how much time do you think you have? How long is 1 million seconds? I'll let you think about it, but I want you to think in hours, days, weeks, months, however you want to categorize that. How much time is 1 million seconds, $1 million? If you guessed 12 days or anywhere close to that, 10 days, 14 days, half a month, even if you guessed a month, you're incredibly close. It is 12 days. If you have 1,000,000 seconds, you have 12 days of time on your hand. So if somebody has $1 million in their bank account right now, which by world standards, you're looking really good. You're looking pretty good compared to the entire world. You're in the upper half if you have $1 million to your name right now. Now, jumping from 1 million to 1 billion. So now you have $1 billion of your net worth, or you have 1 billion seconds. How much time do you think 1 billion seconds is? Again, think weeks, months, years, whatever you want to think. But 12 days was 1 million seconds. So how much is 1 billion seconds? If you guessed that 1 billion seconds is 32 years, you would be correct. It's not exactly, but it's roughly that. So if you are a millionaire, and again, you're greatly above the world poverty line and the world average, if you just have $1 million to your name right now, you're above the 50% threshold around the world. So if you have $1 million in your account and you're standing next to a billionaire with $1 billion in their account, the difference between you is 12 days and them 32 years. That's a massive gap, going from somebody who's worth even 10 million, 50 million, 100 million to 1 billion. We are talking 3 decades of time to make that gap up from $1 million to $1 billion. So let's see if you can get the trend. You're now standing next to you, 12 days worth of time, millionaire. The person next to you is a billionaire with 32 years on their hands. And then the person next to them is Elon Musk, who is a trillionaire. How much time is 1 trillion seconds? How much time does Elon Musk have in comparison to the billionaire with 32 years and you with 12 days on your hand? Again, I'll give you a little bit of time to think. Did you guess 32,000 years? Because that is the difference. Somebody with $1 billion has 32 years on their hands. Somebody with $1 trillion, Elon Musk, has 32,000 years on their hands. So the difference between you, a millionaire, which again, you're greatly above the world average. You're in the top 50% around the world if you have $1 million to your name. And by all standards in the United States, you're looking pretty darn good if you have $1 million to your name. The difference between you and Elon Musk is 32,000 years in time. 32,000. So when we're trying to tease apart billionaires versus millionaires and what wealth means and what it means to have the world's first trillionaire, we are talking about not decades, not centuries, not even millennia. We're talking tens of thousands of years times different between Elon Musk and a millionaire, which is insanity that anybody on this planet can have that much more value to their name than anybody else on this planet. Now, to further break your brain, the next closest person, the next richest person on this planet has roughly $300 billion to their name. And the difference between that person and Elon Musk is larger than the difference between somebody that has $1 to their name and the second richest person in the world. So somebody that is worth $300 billion is closer to being poor and having $1 to their name than they are to being Elon Musk. Again, the human brain is terrible at numbers and at grasping large numbers. So when we hear 300 billion and then we think, oh, a trillionaire, we're thinking, oh, I have $3 and the next person has $10. That's not that big of a difference. That's $7. So then our brain is programmed to work in those same value systems. So then we think somebody that has 300 billion and somebody that has a trillion, that's $7. That's not that big. But the person with $300 billion is far closer to you with $0 to your name if you are the poorest person on this planet with not a cent to their name, not a single item, not even a shirt on their back. A person worth $300 billion is closer to being you financially than they are to being Elon Musk, if we're just talking numbers. If that's not enough, the United States currently has 36 million people below the poverty line. 36 million people just in the United States alone are below the poverty line, living paycheck to paycheck at best. And because of the United States system, probably don't have access to very good health care. And if they do, they're on a government assistance program, which is currently being actively dismantled and taken away from them. So you have 36 million people who cannot afford to live, essentially. They're barely getting by, while you have somebody with 32,000 years on their hands on this planet. To stack on top of that, the United States has roughly 900 to 1,000 billionaires within its population. 900 to 1,000 billionaires in the United States. The total global billionaire count is roughly 3,000. So the United States alone has close to a third of all the billionaires on the planet. Those billionaires' accumulated wealth is actually closer to 50% of the total billionaire wealth of everybody on the planet. So you have roughly 900 people to 1,000 on this in the United States, controlling about 50% of the wealth of all billionaires on the planet, including the world's first trillionaire. So I hope you're really starting to see that the United States having trillionaires and billionaires is not a bug, it's a feature. It's what it's designed to do. It's what it's programmed to do. The fact that we have people getting richer and richer. For instance, billionaires in 2025 saw their wealth raise by roughly 18%. Which equates to about $7 trillion. So in 2025, when the rest of the world's recovering from the COVID pandemic and inflation is growing still, I mean, it's calmed down, but inflation, everything is still getting more expensive and it hasn't reset to pre-pandemic numbers. So everybody is still struggling to make ends meet, and rising prices are driving the middle class into poverty. At that same time, you had the world's richest add $7 trillion in value to their wealth. That's a broken system. That is a system that highly prioritizes a made-up game that we call money. Money is 1,000% made up. It's not even tied to the gold standard anymore. Back when you could say, I have $1 and it's worth 1 gold chip or 1 gram of gold, and that's what my dollar is. If I go turn it in, I can take out a gram of gold and I can walk away with it because that's what my money's valued at. In fact, our system is so broken that there is actually more debt in the world than there is money. Let that sink in again really quick. There is more debt. People on this planet owe more money than there is money to be spent on this planet. Sounds like slavery because it is. It is financial slavery and a broken system that has tied us to being manipulated and controlled and indentured servants to the very rich who continue to see their wealth grow. Again, $7 trillion in 2025, while the rest of us become poorer, living paycheck to paycheck. It's a travesty that we as humans continue to value a made-up thing, a dollar, a piece of paper that is printed, and even gold, which is a rare earth mineral that we can dig up. But other than using it for electronics and other technologies, it doesn't have a value outside of what we give it. So we created a system, a monopoly, like the game Monopoly. We created this financial system. We all signed up and agreed to play in it by default, because when we're just born into the system and we have to play the game. And then if we don't, we're called, drifters and nomads and, basically treated as if we're not meant for society and society is not meant for us because we're unwilling to play the game of indentured servitude for the sake of chasing a made-up dollar that actually has no meaning other than what we give it. Meanwhile, children around the world are dying. Adults around the world are dying. We are cutting funds to USAID and other health organizations that allow us to help the poorest of the poor around the world survive, get vaccinated, not go hungry so that they're not starving to death and dying of malnutrition. So the Elon Musk of the world, and Elon Musk specifically in the United States, hired a bunch of 20-year-olds to go in and doge the US government and basically cut welfare as much as they could and cut USAID and all these worthless programs that aren't making the government any money. Meanwhile, Tesla and SpaceX are barely making profits at best or losing money quarter to quarter, year to year, and still being valued at over $1 trillion simply because Elon Musk's name is tied to it. If you look at the paperwork and you took all names out of it and you did not know what the company you were looking at, you would think that Elon Musk's companies didn't even belong in the top 10 of the world's best companies, richest companies, because financially they are nowhere near that. All that he is good at is raising money and getting people to believe in him so that we can play the game. We can play this made-up game of money that we've all loosely agreed to and just pretend like it has meaning and value beyond what we give it. That being rich somehow makes you a better person. That being poor somehow makes you less moral, evil, vile, disgusting, vermin. And being rich makes you closer to God and have more value. Your words should mean more, that you should have more sway on this planet than somebody with nothing tied to their name. So, humans are terrible at numbers. It does not come naturally to us. And this is a perfect example of how when things do not come naturally to us, we make up systems that oftentimes hurt us. Because people who are smart enough or vile enough or both to realize that they can insert some sort of made up rule, some sort of made up game, and get everybody else to go along with it, they're going to be the winners. These are the charlatans. These are the snake oil salesmen that come in, break the rules, bend the rules, or just deny the rules altogether. And then they are the ones that are able to profit off of this. And at the end of the day, the more we sit here and just accept and praise, and the more Elon Musk tries to be the next person that's worth $2 trillion, that's probably his next goal. And the more we just want to be along for the ride to see it, we're all hitching our wagons to burning stars that are about to enter the atmosphere and blow up spectacularly, because it's not sustainable. Unless we truly want to live in a world of the us and them, the Elysiums, where you have your esoteric breakaway civilizations, your Hunger Games setup, where it is truly rich people who live forever and have access to everything, and everybody else is scum of the earth, dead, vile humans that don't deserve better because we're all disgusting because we're poor. That's the direction we're heading, simply because human brains are not designed to understand large-scale societies, numbers, and systems. And so people who are willing to manipulate our inability to understand that, and they know that we're always going to default to our basic animal instincts, come in and take advantage and become trillionaires. So we only have ourselves to blame, but the good news is every single penny can be taken away from people like Elon Musk and stripped from him, and it can be redistributed out to everybody else. The problem is, again, our ape brains have been taken advantage of, and that's used. When I say something like that, that's communism, that's socialism, that's the end of the world, because all these lazy people like you, all of you listening to this right now, you're all the laziest people I've ever met in my life. You don't deserve a penny. Elon Musk has worked 32,000 years harder than you, and that's why he deserves that. And if you believe that bull crap, you really need to do a lot of soul searching, because Elon Musk is no smarter than the average man. In fact, if you look up, and I'll put this in the show notes, if you look up, statistically speaking, are billionaires, do they have any higher IQ than the average person? And it's a shot in the dark. So if you were to pluck 10 billionaires out of the group and 10 average people out of society, the people with the highest IQ would be a blend of both. Billionaires are not smarter. They've won the rat race of being lucky and having things go their way. Outside of that, they're just average humans. They don't work any harder. Elon Musk is in zero way worth 32,000 years more than you are. And until that greatly pisses us all off, we're going to keep throwing our money into his bucket and just hope for simple pennies on the dollar in return, because we trust that he's gonna provide for us. And that is how we end up in a civilization where we are spending all of our days fighting over pennies, while the rich have abundance of wealth that they could never spend. So I challenge us all to think deeper about the systems that are in place, to know that your brain is going to trick you and fall victim to being terrible at numbers, to being terrible at large-scale ideas. And it's going to try and resort back to understanding the world in very plain, basic, back on the savannah way, where we're just a couple of apes patrolling the edges of the jungle into the prairie or into the savannah. You have to fight to learn and to grow, because otherwise you'll be taken advantage of. We'll all be taken advantage of till the end of time. It's time we fight back for what's ours.